Welcome back to another episode of the Who Are
Are
You podcast. I'm your host for today, Felicia, and Lucy here is my co-host. We have a very special guest today on the pod. Alex, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Alex. I am a professional videographer and filmmaker based out in Los Angeles, California. And I primarily work with YouTubers, content creators to help them create their social media content. So that's primarily what I do.
Yeah, and he's an ex-AIESECer before. He was in AIESEC in America, I
Yeah.
believe. And yeah, how we met kind of is because he was the chair of a conference that we had. So yeah, we're just here to kind of interview him, ask him some questions about how he got to where he is, and hopefully get some insights from him on, yeah, just like any advice on students right now and such things like that. So yeah, we'll get started then.
Cool.
Do you want
Do you
to
want
ask?
to firstly give a quick timeline of your experience with AIESEC?
Yeah.
How you got to where you are now as well, maybe?
Yeah, sure. What they mentioned, I was originally from AIESEC in the United States. So when I first joined as a member, I was part of an LC called AIESEC in Arizona State. So Arizona State University was my home LC. And after a couple of years, actually within the first month, I progressed from being a member to becoming LCVP, and then LCVP for the next year. After that, I was LCP, and after my LCP term, I went on to South Korea as the MCVP of Organizational Development and Finance, so OD and Finance. And then halfway through, I switched over to marketing. My role changed halfway through that term. And then after that, that's when I came to Australia. And then I was MCVP, so the Member Company Vice President of Outgoing Exchange. So that's basically the timeline. And I joined back in 2014 as a member, and then ended my AIESEC career as MCVP summer 2019. So that's like a rough timeline there.
Yeah.
Cool.
How would you kind of say how has that experience shaped you right now?
I would say overall, I always tell people my AIESEC experience was fundamentally one of those core things that kind of changed my life. The first phase was going on exchange and kind of getting exposed to the world for the first time. And then after that, when I was actually in AIESEC, learning all of these skills that I never really learned in engineering school. So I studied biomedical engineering, and I didn't really have a lot of practical experience. It was all just textbook learning, lectures, etc. So everything else that I started learning in terms of leadership, business management, finance, marketing, product management, customer management, things like that. That was all through AIESEC, right? I got a baseline knowledge of that entire kind of skill set. And then eventually, I started leveraging that as okay, cool, I have these baseline skills. I'll develop this even further into what I'm doing now for my business. So that was kind of the progression there.
Very interesting. And you mentioned kind of how the experience shaped your leadership experience, I guess, and how you lead people. Do you kind of, in your opinion, what do you think leadership is to you, and how do you how do you define it?
Yeah. Let's see. How I used to define it in the past, especially when I would tell people about leadership in AIESEC and even outside of AIESEC, it's when you define leadership, it's you're living up to your fullest potential as an individual, and you're learning more about yourself. And in doing so, you're essentially getting to the point where you can help other people or lead them in certain ways. So by having, some sort of sense of who you are, where you're going, and you've developed to some degree to get to that next level, that would allow you to essentially, kind of guide people along in their journeys. Either if you're leading them in a team, right? For me, I do a lot of like content creation, working with a lot of other creators or things for like big projects to like make videos. And that sort of carries over, right? So I had to learn how to, communicate well. I had to learn how to, come up with a direction and like a strategy to like, direct a video and make it happen. So there's all of that stuff that sort of started to come together, and I defined that leadership as that, right? You're just growing as an individual, and then from there, a lot of the things that you start picking up, that allows you to help other people and kind of guide them in that sort of journey as well. So
Yeah. I think that's something that like a lot of people miss, is that like you have to absorb like a lot of things first in order to, I guess, lead other people. And I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, even though AIESEC, we brand it as like, oh, leadership, like organization, stuff like that. A lot of members come in and be like, they're not gaining leadership experience, let's say, but I feel like they miss the part that, oh, they have to gain enough knowledge in order to lead someone else. And leadership experience is not just about leading someone else. It's about like gaining that as well. And I think, yeah, a lot of people like kind of misunderstand that about AIESEC and have like this wrong image of what.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Even back when I like first joined as like a member, like that was kind of like one of those general like misassumptions about AIESEC. It's like, oh, I need to, be this. I need to be this sort of let's see, LCVP, LCP, and like a formal. It had to be a formal title. Yeah. They assumed that they couldn't be leaders if they didn't have a formal title, so they would just give up on like everything else on the other side. But that's not necessarily the case, right? It's like there's so many opportunities in AIESEC for you to explore and learn and develop as, for yourself. And again, those also open up new opportunities for you to explore different methods of leadership or like different ways and how you can express leadership and how I sort of see it.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess in terms of like how you've been able to gain connection with people throughout your, I guess, journey here, what is your thought on like the importance of that? Because you said that your AIESEC experience, like the people that you meet, has like, contributed a lot to your.
I want to know, are you still in touch with many of your like AIESEC friends?
Quite a few, yeah. I mean, I'm going to lunch, like late lunch, early dinner with like another AIESEC alumni. And like throughout this past week, since we like wrapped up the conference, I was like meeting up with my MCP, like meeting up with my like old team members and like other AIESEC alumni, and like even in the States too. I'm going to like, once I land, I'm gonna go and celebrate one of my friend's birthdays. She was from like another LC out in the States, like part of the same region, of course, but we're having like a bunch of other AIESEC alumni getting together and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely like the strength of like the connections was also a big factor as to like how my AIESEC experience sort of played out, because instead of I'm actually like really introverted compared to it's surprising, right? So I'm pretty introverted. So when it comes to like making friends, like making like solid connections, that was like something that I tried to like learn as part of my AIESEC experience, because like when I first started, I was just like super shy, hated like sharing, and then like standing up in conference, like when people would stand up and share, I was like terrified. I could not stand up in front of people and like share my thoughts. I would stumble over my words and everything. But eventually, over the years, like I just started making, that effort to like keep putting myself out there and then making connections, making friends. Then eventually, it's just like, like honestly, talking isn't that bad, right? So it grew on me. Like that's sort of part of the AIESEC experience, which is like, making connections, making friends, and then, growing more on that personal side. That was a huge thing for me.
Yeah, I think like AIESEC gives you that opportunity to step outside of your comfort zone, like again and again, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Really cool.
Yeah.
One day I'll share at conference. One day.
Got this.
Hope so, yeah.
Do you have any like tips then, let's say, for this person?
Tips, general tips in terms of, like stepping up and sharing or like communication.
Yeah, sure. I actually wanted to ask, like, you're currently a professional videographer,
Yeah.
right? It's like sort of an unconventional pathway, I'd say.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, like, how you dealt with taking that leap of faith.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was definitely something that I struggled with actually, even like post ISEC, After leaving ISEC and you kind of leave that sort of an environment, it's like now you're back in the world.
The real world.
Yeah, yeah. And like you have a lot of people that are like, you need to get a job, you have to get like some sort of income and like you need to have stability. Like that's what you need to find in life, Alex. And I was like, okay, fine. Let me pursue that. Let me try to find it. But at at the core of like who I am, I just don't fundamentally like, stick to the status quo a lot of times. So when it comes to like, typical working culture, corporate working culture, I mean, it's great. It works in a lot of ways, and society needs like that sort of structure. But how my brain works and how I sort of view the world, I need more freedom than that. So when I started thinking about, okay, what do I do, after ISEC and all that, when I started pursuing like corporate work culture and like doing like sales and stuff, like that was hard. That was actually like really difficult. It wasn't like creative for me at all, so I needed that outlet. So I kept on bouncing back and forth between like, oh, should I do this? Should I not? Should I pursue something creative like filmmaking, like videography? But it eventually got to the point where I was just bouncing back and forth so many times that like people started noticing. It's like, hey, Alex, maybe you should just, maybe you should just full send it. Like, I mean, you're creative, like you've got an eye for like videos and imagery and stuff like that. So, I mean, you've already made some money from doing this part-time. What's going to stop you from like, just starting your own business, just full sending it. So I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I've sat on this for too long. And because I've bounced around so many times, like I've already molded over. Like my mind was already basically set. The only thing that was holding me back was just me, just being like, okay, I'm going to take a leap later. Well, later's coming now, so I guess I need to do it now. So that's how it started.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
At conference, we learned about this concept called Ikigai. It was like, what was it? Like reaching your fulfillment, right? And then Duncan, our LCP, talked about how to reach that, you had to like fulfill 4 spheres. It was like doing something you love, something you're good at, something you can be paid for, and something the world needs. Do you think that right now you've reached Ikigai or like on the way to reaching it?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I feel like I've reached that point where I've essentially like found my Ikigai. Because it's like, something that I'm loving it. Like I can wake up every day and be like, okay, what sort of video do I want to make? And like I can think like creatively and have that sort of freedom, like what I was pursuing. Same thing goes with like I can get paid for what I'm doing. Like what the world needs right now is like, people essentially need other people to be creative or be able to tell stories or be able to, create videos. Right? Social media nowadays, especially with, post-pandemic and like having this entire experience, just everything is online. Every single company, every single brand, every single person needs some sort of video and online presence. Otherwise, a lot of times businesses just don't survive. So that also fulfills like a lot of elements there with my Ikigai, where it's like, yeah, I can contribute like my skill set, which so many people need in the world now, and I can get paid for it, and I can just wake up every day just being like, yo, dude, I'm enjoying this. This is so much better than just, slogging through a job that I didn't really enjoy. So yeah.
Is there any advice you'd give to like up and coming content creators?
I would say there's a few points. So I would say first, invest in yourself. Like gear doesn't matter, even though I have like a giant bag off to the side here, just like all of my camera equipment. Yeah, but just starting out, just learning how to do like videos, photos, and generally just being creative. Just experimenting with it. Like, what do you like talking about? What are your interests? What are your hobbies, right? And then creating content around that. So for me, it's like filmmaking and travel and personal development. That type of stuff like really interests me. So I'll make stuff related to that. And really just doing it. You can't like sit around like after you start recognizing, hey, I need to learn all of these skills. You can't just be in a loop of just constantly learning the skills, going through tutorials and like watching videos and YouTube videos on how to do stuff. You actually have to like make videos. Like you have to like go out and shoot photos. Go out during sunrise or like sunset. Try to get like some cool golden hour shots, or try writing. Like write a short story about how your day went. Something similar to that. And it all just comes back to like just doing. Like the more practice and like the reps that you put in, like the more you'll start picking it up. Because again, like I had no formal education in terms of how to like film, how to set up a camera, how to edit, like any of that stuff. But I eventually like I learned as I went, but at the same time, like I didn't like just consume knowledge. I actually went out, like applied it, bought a camera, like started using like the skills in like client work and projects and other things that, made me just one step better than how I was before.
Yeah. But do you have any like specific maybe people or like sites that people can go to if they want to learn?
Yeah.
This is for Martin.
For sure. For Martin. I got you, man. Don't worry. Yeah. I would say, again, Google and YouTube are super essential. I mean, having the curiosity to like search up something and be like, hey, like, how do I do this? That's fundamentally like one of the core skills I picked up in AIESEC as well. But also what you should know, like when you're getting into content creation. I learned a lot by watching guys like Peter McKinnon. He's a Canadian photographer and YouTuber. Sam Calder is, the OG travel videographer, cinematographer in the content creation space. So like piecing together like how he's sort of made his videos and like watching the flow and the story, like how does that work? Those are a couple examples that I follow. And then mainly I would say like YouTubers like Matt Diavella, who they do like personal development content, but they're really good at like piecing together information and like a story. And like Yes Theory is also a really great example of that. And just watching a Yes Theory video, breaking it down and actually like dissecting how did they open up a story, how do they establish a narrative, how do they establish some sort of conflict, and find that sort of resolution after 30 minutes or so or of like travel and experience, right? Those are specifically like those guys like I would recommend to anyone for just learning how to film, how to edit, how to tell a story, and essentially, yeah, like either take photos, videos, and just make generally just content online. Those are my top recommendations for sure.
So kind of like observe what other people are already doing really well.
Yeah.
And like learn those skills.
Yeah, I would start off from there. There's also courses you can take. A lot of these guys have like, I know Sam Colder has like an editing course, um, and like, that's also available. But again, if you don't have the resources, you got to be crafty with it, right? Those courses cost money, unfortunately. So, like dissecting like those videos and like trying to learn and ask questions, why or how did they make this? That's gonna allow you to start learning even further. So
Yeah. I guess like just like start somewhere
yeah,
is the
yeah,
baseline.
yeah,
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people watch all these stuff, but still don't do anything about it. They just kind of sit there and be like,
yeah. The worst thing you can do is just like sit and doom scroll for the most part. But once you start picking up a camera or opening up your laptop, learning how to edit, all these things, just getting started with it is the key part.
yeah, okay. And do you have any? This is a request by Martin again, but he wants to know what's like the biggest secret you wish you knew about content creation.
Yeah, so the biggest secret that I knew or that I wish I knew about content creation is that like, you know, not everything is entirely true. So like, yeah, like okay, in the sense of like when you're creating content, right? You have to like really shape things around the story. And does it make sense and give context and add more to the story itself? One example is like, okay, if you watch like some YouTube videos for like big YouTubers and stuff, they'll probably shift around events on like, you know, chronologically, it doesn't make sense, right? But, like they're shifting around certain events and like key points in like the story that just add more to like the character development, the attention grabbing, whatever it is. And it's like, yeah, and in a way, again, it's not like a full, like, truthful, chronological retelling of the story. But what it actually does is it reinforces, again, that narrative, that character development, that story progression that, a lot of people don't really, you know, break down. Most of us, like, we would just watch a video and just be like, wow, that was a really great video. That was a great story. But it's all those smaller things that was just like, wow. Like, once I started realizing that, it didn't have to be like just this chronological order of things. If I can create a story that is still, again, very truthful, but it just moves things around to give better context of what that story is, then it's a better story. It's a better video. It's a better photo, like whatever that is, right? Fundamentally, just hands down, like people are going to enjoy it and they're going to process it and understand it better. So that's something that I realized throughout my experience. Again, it's like maybe like calling it like not everything is like fully fake or like real. It's kind of like extreme, but like taking in that sort of context where it's like, okay, you play around with like the information ethically and with integrity to build out a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like how to capture the audience.
Yeah. Or just like, tell that story better, and in a way it also adds to that where it captures the audience as well as a side effect.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask, like, when you release content, it's like you open up your work to like the judgment of like a lot of people, right? Like the public eye. How do you deal with that kind of judgment or like being brave enough to share?
Yeah. How
Good question.
Because I would just start my own channel or like for a while, right?
Yeah.
But I think I'm so afraid of just like other people judging me.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, one thing I realized is that the haters and the people that are gonna judge you, yeah, dude, like, okay, the haters, fundamentally, I'm gonna say it to the camera too. Fundamentally, the haters and like the people that are gonna judge you are the ones that aren't doing anything. So, If they have time to leave negative comments online, they're probably not doing anything. So, and if anything, any comment or, you know, any negative comment that you get on like your posts and stuff, that's also engagement. That also helps with your content. So if anything, they think that they're like poning you, but in reality, they're actually doing you a favor. So, yeah, baseline is that again, they're not usually the people that are like part of your inner circle. They're not usually people that are really gonna matter for the most part. They're always just gonna be people that like wish they were doing something while you're out here like carrying a camera around, talking to it. Maybe you might feel like an idiot, like just walking around Central, just being like, hey guys, literally me just like yesterday. But fundamentally, yeah, that's the key thing. Like if like honestly, like don't worry about it because those people will not fundamentally matter. And that's the key thing.
Yeah. And I heard that like people who say those mean things, it's just like a reflection of their own insecurities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just want to put other people down to make them feel better.
Exactly.
So it's not a you problem.
So kind of like understanding that and not letting it get to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, you know, again, you're as AIESECers, right? And we're leading with integrity and like being genuinely like good people, right? On the flip side of that, we also have people that are not like that. And, you know, we're trying to, you know, help out the world in a way to address for that. So, yeah, they're going to be there, but always got to carry on.
Yeah. You got this.
Yeah, just put up a vlog. Just make, if it looks silly, if the edit's bad, it's a step in your learning process. Like my first YouTube video was bad. It was really bad. It was like the first month or two after I got back in the States, after I left AIESEC, it was really, really bad. Lighting's bad and just, oh man. I'm gonna stop there.
Is it still online?
Maybe. I think so. It might be on my YouTube channel if you guys want to dig through that. But also, yeah, I'm also embarrassed, but also I don't care anymore.
Learning experience.
It's a learning experience. It's like I can look back at it and be like, yeah, that was like 2019 me. That was a pretty rough video, not gonna lie. So it is what it is.
I think something I've learned from you, Alex, is like just like doing it, like getting started and learning through the process, like making a start. Because I think I'm such a perfectionist that I don't even want to make a start in a sense because I want to like, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, you're like the perfectionism and wanting to have like a perfect like result is making you stop because you want to like fine tune everything before even getting started. Yeah.
I think you kind of started.
Huh?
Like, as in, like, no, because you started, like, editing, at least.
Editing?
That's a step. Because, like, our podcast, she, like, edits them, some of them. So, it's something, you know?
Something. Hey.
You slowly get there.
Slowly getting there. You know, again, I officially started learning photos and videos. Like, I played around with it back in, like, 2017, 2018. But I officially like started the journey like in 2019. So it's like, it's been like 4 years since like learning just how to make a camera work. I started off, I didn't even own a camera at that time. Like I borrowed my dad's like A7 II and just like learned how to film on it. Like I didn't even own like any fancy lenses. It was the A7 II with a kit lens and like a dinky little like nubby microphone on top. That had super bad audio. Just like, it was bad. It was really bad. And I just didn't know how to talk in front of a camera. I didn't know how to like shoot a camera, but like I just started learning. Like first time ever pulling up Premiere Pro and just like learning how to click around and just mess around with things. I was 2019. But now like people are like, you know, like hiring me for like, you know, filming stuff or like working on editing projects. I was working on an edit for like another video like today for potentially like pretty big gig. I can't really share much about that because again, like that's kind of up in the air. But yeah, like stuff like that. It's 4 years. It's gonna take time, but just doing it is the key thing.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like how did you know that you were passionate about this though?
Yeah.
Even before, because from what I'm hearing, you knew it even before you picked up a camera, or
Yeah. So it's like fundamentally, when I was like a little kid, I actually loved watching movies. My favorite movies, like of all time, are um, Good Will Hunting, featuring Matt Damon and Robin Williams. Number one movie of all time. Second, Everything Everywhere All at Once, 100%.
Oh, really?
And then
Too, right? Yeah.
animated movie, Your Name, and Studio Ghibli, just
All of them?
all of them. No, it's its own category. And then recently, one of the latest ones I saw was Past Lives.
Oh, I
Yeah.
really like that.
Yeah, Past Lives.
Oh, I watched it about you. I'm sorry.
Definitely recommend that one, especially with like the storytelling, the cinematography, and like how you convey emotion. Like that was like
imagery.
the imagery. Yeah, based off of just
really
that
good.
one, just that one movie. So those are a couple of my favorite movies. Definitely recommend watching them. But yeah, I just remember starting out just watching movies as a kid with like my mom, my parents. They're like super into like cinema, like old westerns and everything else from like 1940s, 50s. And so I started, just wanting to watch movies like every single weekend. That was like a family hobby. My sisters were into like Star Wars, so we like role played like Star Wars characters. I was tormented by my older sister with like a Darth Vader mask and like a lightsaber.
Wow.
So like we knew every single line and like all that. So that's what sort of kicked it off. Like I had that sort of like upbringing where I just loved cinema and storytelling and movies, that it started translating into when YouTube first came out, right? Finding like storytelling similar to that, right? And that's when I came across like Wong Fu Productions as like the first big YouTubers that I saw. And then after that, watching more like Nigahiga, like How to Be Ninja. That was fundamentally one of the like most influential videos of like my early childhood. And then yeah, Kev Jumba, of course, being just like a pure, true personality, just like to who he is, and like more of those Asian American like YouTubers that started coming up. So I started like getting influenced by all of that. And I was like, wow, yeah, like I really love like creativity and stuff that they're putting out, like all the videos and what they sort of stand for, just as like creative people just trying to make a living and like live good lives, but also doing all this fun stuff. I was just like, wow, I kind of want to do something like that. That would be cool. That would be sick. So
interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all trying to figure out right now. What we want to do. But yeah, before we quickly wrap up, just one last question. Any advice for people who kind of like young people who are trying to figure it out, don't know what they are passionate about yet, but trying to figure it out, and yeah, any advice on that?
Yeah. So if you're in the process of still figuring it out, you have, still trying to find that direction. For the most part, what I've learned over the years is really, really trusting that intuition or that gut instinct that's sort of eating at you. It might be that like voice in your head saying like, hey, maybe you should check this out. Or like even when I was in AIESEC, right? I was thinking, okay, like, hey, like, Alex, you should think about like doing this role or like taking on this experience, right? Like being a FASI or like being on the CC team or something like that. It was that inner voice that kept on popping up and saying like, hey, like you should think about this, and like actually listening into it, like leaning into it, listening to it, and then trying to make sense of it. because for the most part, that's always like speaking to some sort of inner truth that you have, be it like some sort of belief or like some sort of desire for where you want to go and like what you want to do in life. And so I've spent a lot of time just ignoring that inner voice, and that sort of set me down the wrong path, like, you know, for a while. But then once I started listening to that and actually like acting on it, that's when I started finding, you know, my passion and like finding inspiration and actually like doing things that I actually enjoy. So like making videos and just wanting to help tell better stories in some sort of way. That's how I came across it. And then, yeah, just listening to that voice kind of led me to where I am now. So.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I think we are coming to the end of the episode. But yeah, thank you for joining us today, sharing your story.
I learned a lot from you, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. This is a great time. So.
Yeah, but thank you.
This will definitely be like the most professional podcast episode we'll release.
Oh.
Highest quality episode we'll ever release, guys. So
Fair enough.
the audio is like probably okay sounding.
Fair enough, yeah. We're also using a lot of my equipment, so it's like, I'm glad to offer it up, you know.
No more iPhone audio.
Hey, yeah. Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Yeah. Hey, who knows? Maybe one day, you know, some of the content creation will get to like this level of production, but
Yeah, maybe.
maybe.
Podcast in the future.
Podcast in the future, yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
But yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool.
Well, oh yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We do like a little closing space into it.
Just like a little clap. 3, 2, 1 clap. Yeah.
It's like closing space.
Yeah.
Closing space. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.